Welcome to online entertainment, everyone, today. So, what we're looking at is a couple of great options you can use to keep yourself entertained during these long days of coronavirus. Those of you who are aware of ReadyTechGo and already what we do, our mission is to enrich your lives through technology education where we can. If you're looking for any of our services, we are still doing one-on-one sessions via remote with you. So it's really great that we can keep going. Details are there as well. Give us a call, 9434 2020, if you're looking to book a one-on-one session. We'd love to help you out. So we're going to cover off some of the major stuff today, some of these major providers. I'm also going to show you my Apple TV, and we're going to show you how you can use items like the Apple TV as well. We've got entertainment online, so YouTube, Spotify, and Netflix, the big players essentially. Okay, as Robbie Williams sang, "Let me entertain you." So what's the history of where we are? So essentially, the history of this entertainment is, we've come through stories and myth, way back in time, clay tablets, papyrus and the scroll. The history of story is intricately linked to the history of man being able to write, putting up drawings on cave walls, things like that, the printing press, newspapers, books and journals, moving from there into vinyl records, and then onto radio, of course, and coming into the 20th century. Televisions, magazines, who had an 8-track? Someone had an 8-track in their car, I'm sure. Cassettes, CDs, digital tapes, mini DV. I mean, there's just so much that's been around. The last 20 years have seen high definition TV come in. We've had DVDs, high definition DVDs, so many different things there. We've had then the rise of iTunes and Napster in the 90s and the 2000s with these services, Blu-ray and all sorts of different streaming services we have now. We now live in a world where we've got an amazing amount of streaming services which are available. Napster, Blu-ray, your good old Blu-ray discs. I've got quite a few Blu-rays. For those of you who have ever seen my bookcase, you might see that again shortly. There's plenty of Blu-rays in there. I love my Blu-ray discs. I love to watch my movies. And streaming services now. And, we've now into the world of, Netflix and Stan and Amazon Prime. There's so many different streaming services now. There's practically one for everyone that's out there. You want a streaming service, you can find one. There's just so many, which is incredible. So that's been an amazing change with what's happening. When we look at streaming versus downloading, there's two big fundamentals here that if you're actually wanting to watch something online, but not necessarily save it to your computer, that's called streaming. It's much like having the river flowing past you. You can see the water coming towards you, it goes past, and then it's gone. So that's one of the interesting things about streaming, okay? So now you've also got downloading. So downloading, saving the movie, the film, the piece of music, whatever it is, to your device, essentially. That's what downloading is. So who are the big players? Spotify, Netflix, YouTube, Apple are in there, of course, and Amazon. They're your big ones. Most of your television stations have streaming services, which is pretty amazing these days, and that's because they've needed to step up. There are lots of shows that don't even appear on free-to-air. They're only ever on streaming channels. You would have noticed that with the rise of HBO and so on. So there's quite a few of those shows that you would never see on terrestrial TV, but they are available online to watch, which is pretty amazing. So lots of replay services, your ABC iView and your 10 Play, they're essentially, and 9 Now and 7 and Catch Up and Freeview, they're all there for you to be able to catch up with what was on terrestrial TV. So those guys are now competing and understanding that they need to be part of this as well, which is pretty amazing. So let's actually come into a couple of services. I'm going to come into Spotify in a little bit, but what I thought I'd do first of all is actually take you in to some of the devices that you can use to get all these services, because it's nice to talk about the services, but I'm going to talk about them while I actually demonstrate them for you as well. There's some quite interesting little devices available now. Let's start off with one of them. I don't know if anyone's actually seen this. It's called the Chromecast. Okay, so the Chromecast is by Google. It's been around for a couple of years. It's a really simple device, very, very simple, in the fact that it essentially streams what comes from your mobile phone or your tablet over to your television. Now, when you get it, what you get is your box. You get all your little details in the box. You get a cable for it as well for power. And this is your Chromecast itself. It's just a puck. Essentially, it's just a puck with a HDMI cable on the end there. Bring that up to the camera so you can see that. There we go. That's the little HDMI camera, the HDMI port. That's what I'm talking about. So that's your Chromecast. This one needs a smartphone or a tablet, and it essentially takes what you see on there for Netflix and Spotify and so on, and it sends it over to your television. This is called casting. So it's essentially taking the sound or vision from one device and sending it over to another one. So that's called casting. This one is fairly cheap. I think you get them for under $100, essentially, which is pretty good little value. They're not bad at all. Now, I also use an Apple TV box. I quite like my Apple TV. I think it's a little bit more versatile, but it's really up to everyone's choice in regards to these. This is the much more expensive one. This is the Apple TV 4K. On the back of it, it's got very simple connections. It's only got power, HDMI, and an Ethernet port. Ethernet port is for high-speed networking. It's Wi-Fi. It basically does everything through Wi-Fi. Power, HDMI, and Ethernet. It essentially just hooks in to everything you already have with your Apple gear. So if you've got an Apple ID, it can see your photos. If you've got other things with Apple, you can see those as well. It can see the same music library that you have, all of that sort of stuff. So essentially, these are great little set-top boxes. They're great particularly for people who might have a slightly older TV that perhaps isn't a smart TV, and you're maybe not interested in a tablet or a smartphone. So on your Apple TV here, everyone, what you can see is a whole string of options going up and down on the Apple TV. I'll just come back out one. There's my TV. There we go. So I can go left and right to see apps. I can see arcade, which is games that Apple have that you can pay a subscription fee for, movies, TV shows as well. And then I can come down the screen and I can see things like music, my photos, podcasts I might be interested in, what's on the computer. And I can see other services like 9 Now, 10 Play and 7 Plus. These are replay services. These allow you essentially to see the same services that you would have seen on your TV or through your device. You can now watch them back through devices like your Apple TV. If you've got a tablet or a smartphone, you can also have these as apps as well. There's your SBS On Demand. So if you're a big SBS person, there is your SBS On Demand. Some games options here as well, all sorts of different things. One of the big ones, though, is YouTube. I know YouTube is a massive thing for many, many people. YouTube gives you the option to find so much and learn so much, and we'll look at YouTube a little bit more very shortly. Freeview is your option to be able to watch your Australian TV shows all together in one app. And then I've just got a few other supplementary apps in here, some games. There's Netflix. Now, Netflix, that's a big one, isn't it? Yes, we'll come back to Netflix very shortly. We're going to cover on Spotify first, though. So that's a little bit of the Apple TV. As long as that TV can take a HDMI.
Yes.
As long
Yes.
as you can take an HDMI, you are winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Okay.
So that definitely works. That's not a problem. That does work. So yes, you can. If you've got an older TV that doesn't have HDMI, you can also use a an adapter out there that's an RCA to HDMI adapter. So JB Hi-Fi, Officeworks, there you'll get one through them really, really simply. So there is the JB Hi-Fi website there, the Apple TV 32, 249, 279. That's the Apple TV. You can order them directly online through there. Also, just to keep it equal, Chromecast as well. Chromecast, 58 bucks. Okay, the Ultra is 98, and they do a bundle with a Home Mini as well. Now, you'll be Chromecast, I find personally a little harder to set up.
Hmm.
I found it a little bit fiddly myself, but if you want to give it a go, give it a go. There's lots of the streaming boxes around, lots of different sound options now for Sonos and audio and so on. So there's lots of these boxes that are around. There's a Foxtel Now box as well. Foxtel have got their own box out. Lots of those different boxes that are around. Now, Spotify's here on the bottom corner. Spotify is the black square with the green circle with the three radio waves. Let's have a look at a couple of things here. So, what we can see on Spotify is I've tapped the home, which is the house on the left hand side of the screen. That shows me things that I've recently played, first of all, on the right-hand side, and then it's got a made for me, so it's given me my name, and it's got a few things it thinks I might be interested in. It's got some mood choices. So want to have a great day, front left weekend, so lots of different mood sort of music, happy pop, morning motivation. I don't know how motivated we are all in the morning, but you never know. So there's lots of different things. I can see playlists that people have created already. I can look at soundtracks. If I'm driving, focus, you name it. There's lots and lots of different stuff here, which in itself is pretty cool. You know, if you love the latest acts, well, you can come across and you can see things such as the boys from BTS. Here we go. There's an ad for premium. So it wants me to actually do that, but no thank you to that. Now, as we come back across here, I can see that there's lots of different music, and I want to actually go looking for an artist. Okay. So, in order to go looking for an artist, what I'll need to do is tap the search on the left hand side. The search looks like a magnifying glass, or alternatively, a letter Q, if you think about it, Q for query. So, I want to do a search here. So, I'm going to tap in the artist area. Now, I'm going to put in something different. Marianne Faithful. Do we have any Marianne Faithful? Well, yes, they do. They do have Marianne Faithful, which is interesting. So if I tap on the artist for Marianne Faithful, there we go. And I can now see, oh, look at that. She's getting 715,000 listens a month. Now, as I've come down through Marianne Faithful here, on the right-hand side, you can see a green circle with a play symbol. So it essentially lets me just play through her music. I can also go down through the list here, and I can see a number of different songs. Now, one of the things with Spotify, and you'll see that across Spotify as well as the Spotify app and the Spotify website, is that on the right-hand side of each song, there is a set of three dots. Those three dots are essentially a menu option. So when I tap the three dots, I could like that song, I could add it to the playlist or make a playlist from it. I could add it to the queue so it goes into the songs that are currently playing right now. I could choose to share that song, so send a link to it to someone. Alternatively, I can go to an option where a radio station can be created just of all the different songs based around Marianne Faithfull and that particular song. I could see the album, and if I thought I didn't like it, or I thought it was explicit and it wasn't marked as such, I can report the explicit content and finally see the credits, which is great. Now, a lot of people will want to make playlists, okay? If I liked that song, I could come over to the three dots and go, you know what? I like that song. So I've given it a little heart there, and that means it's now liked. I could also tap the three dots again and add to a playlist. I could create a new playlist, and I'm going to call this one, and I'm just going to delete here. There we go. And I'm going to call it Deep and Meaningful. There we go. Deep and Meaningful. There we go. Deep and Meaningful. I'm tapping the word create. I've now created a new playlist, and that has now been added. Down the left-hand side of Spotify, there is a Your Library option. Now, Your Library is essentially showing me the playlist, the artists, and the albums that I've already got. I've only liked one song. There's my Deep and Meaningful, Saturday Nights, Classical Comedy, and so on. I've got artists here that if I'm following any artists, they would appear there. I can also tap the albums and see if there's anything there. So this is my library. If I come down to classical comedy, I've got Anna Russell here. Good old Anna Russell. Again, I can add songs to this playlist. I can go along, and I can simply do that either by searching or tapping home and scrolling through. So Spotify lets me have quite a lot of music. If I don't particularly choose any artists, or I just choose one of these playlists, it will just keep playing and playing and playing. It'll play for roughly around 30 minutes, and then you'll get some ads. But there's Spotify. So essentially, you can have a look at lots of different songs. You can have your own library of songs. You can search through and find lots of different artists and make playlists of their music as well, which is pretty amazing. And you can also then come back home and have a look at lots and lots of different music there as well. Yeah.
So even if you pay for it on a subscription, you're still getting the advertising?
No, that's the thing. When you go premium, it's ad-free.
Yes.
No ads whatsoever, which is fantastic because who wants to sit there and have to go through ads all the time? That's a pain in the pain, essentially.
Yes.
So we don't, we deal with advertising enough in our life.
I'm just wondering, if you used your phone, put Spotify on your phone, how much data will that take up?
Great question. So usually at home, I have my phone connected to Wi-Fi, so I don't have to worry so much. But the thing with Spotify, songs can take anywhere from 5 to 15 megabytes per song. Now, if you're listening to songs all hour, for an hour, you could use 50 to 60 megabytes with an hour of music, perhaps. So just, think about if you're on your mobile, maybe listening to Spotify for maybe an hour or two at a time. And then, just thinking about where you want to go with that.
Right.
So, but Spotify is pretty amazing. And, there's always a data use with these apps. They're always using your data. Otherwise, it's, your Wi-Fi at home or it's the mobile data if you're out and about. I recently upgraded my plan to a 100 gigabyte plan, which I think is sort of a little bit overkill, but it seems to be working for me because I do a lot of media. But so for some people, this is going to be a lot. For some people, it's not, okay? So I always say with services like Spotify, try the free option first. Jump onto Spotify.com, the website, and sign up there. It's a very simple sign-up process. And then you can use your account on any of your devices. And that way you can then go, right, I tried an hour of Spotify today. and then you could maybe go and check at your usage with your internet service provider. So Spotify is your number one streaming service, launched in 2008, available on computers, devices, and set-top boxes, gaming systems as well. If for some reason you've got a PlayStation or an Xbox in the house, you could actually get Spotify on those as well. And I know there's a whole group of seniors that I've been working with lately who've started playing video games. They're getting into racing games and golf games and playing 10-pin bowling on the Nintendo and things like that. So there's lots of games you can get into. So there's services that they have with paid discounts for students and families. A really extensive demo, an extensive library there, and you can see lots of different podcasts, lots of different things that will be available to you on the app there as well, which is pretty amazing. So let's talk about Netflix, the king of video, film and TV streaming. It's the big one. I remember the days when Netflix started out that they used to actually rent out DVDs out of vending machines. That was a strange thing. But yes, they did in the early days. Now it's home to major film and TV franchises, Star Trek. If you were a big fan of Star Trek, well, basically the only place you can see a lot of Star Trek outside of America now is on Netflix. It's got its own TV series. Those people who might have watched The Crown, a big fan of The Crown, which is a pretty amazing little, TV series. Now, Spotify is free for your first month. You have paid services that you can use with Spotify as well, which makes it pretty amazing. I pay for Netflix every month. And, for me, I'm not, too upset with it. I find it really good. I've actually got a membership to Netflix as well. And I use that every month. And I do a thing where I share Netflix with my best friend, essentially, and let them use it. So you can have multiple users. You can use via websites, devices, smartphones, tablets, and set-top boxes, DVD and Blu-ray players. You name it, there's lots of different ways to do it. So let's actually have a look at Netflix now on a computer. There we go. Here's Netflix on my computer screen. So you can see that we're in Safari right now and we're in Netflix. So unlimited movies, TV shows, and more. I can watch anywhere. I can add an email address. I can take up a month of Netflix and try it. If I cancel before the end of the month, they won't bill me. But if I stay on after the end of that first month, yes, I will get billed. So you can see here that I can pop in an email address and start to create an account. So with Netflix here, I could try the It Now option. I can click on Try It Now. And I can go, right, what plan do I want to choose? Well, I can, have a look at these, no commitments, cancelling and so on. I'll see my plans. There's the plans here with Netflix. So what you've got is the premium plan for $19 a month. Lets you have full high definition, ultra high definition, 4 people watching it at once. Watching it on lots of different devices, unlimited and cancelling. But as we come down, I might not need that. I might just want the basic plan. So I get $9.99 a month. I don't get high definition. I only get standard definition. I can only watch it on one screen, and I can only watch it on one screen at a time. Okay, so that's good for the own-some, lonesome, but most of us would probably go with standard Netflix, which is what I pay for, $13.99 a month in high definition. I don't have a need for ultra high definition. It's also known as 4K is ultra high definition. So I don't have a need for that. So I don't bother with it, and I wouldn't need to pay the extra for it. I can have 2 people watching Netflix at any one time. I can watch across multiple devices and see all the extras as well. When I continue on, though, I can now come along and set up my account. So now I need to actually come along and create a thing. So I can create a password, and then I can come along here and join. I could set up payment options now. Now, of course, I could use my Visa, credit card, American Express, or my PayPal accounts as well. So I'm going to sign in, and hopefully it's going to let me in with one of my current accounts. There we go. Okay, here we go. So logging into that account there. And this is what you're going to see when you first come in. There we go. So I've created a couple of accounts, one for myself, one for the bestie, one for a dear friend down the road who doesn't get out much. So for him, this is really great while he's all in isolation. And also there's a kids option. Yes. So a dedicated kids Netflix. Only kids viewing, really great for if you are looking after the bambinos. But yes, some very cute stuff in there. If I come into my own personal one, what you should see is it's looking at some tailoring the program. And what have we got? Oh, Tiger King. Yes, the one show that seems to be everywhere at the moment is Tiger King. Yes. Let's move on down past Tiger King, shall we? So you can see there's a whole lot of TV shows here. I can go through them. I can arrow right and left. There's your Rick and Morty, which is pretty huge. So lots of things I can go through. And then what I can do is I think, you know what? I actually want to look for something specifically. So I'm going to come log in and have a look for Star Trek. What do I get if I look for Star Trek here? Well, what do we get? Wow. If you love your Star Trek, there's plenty of it. Star Trek, the original series, remastered in high definition and brought up to date with new special effects. Starting with Star Trek, The Next Generation, Star Trek Discovery, and then Voyager and the films. So if you love your Star Treks, and then there's all sorts of little movies and TV shows which are similar to that as well. If I want to come into, say, good old Star Trek, I can click on it here. I can go to the arrow at the bottom. That lets me now zoom out and have a little look further. And I can see that I could do an overview. I could click straight to episodes. I can see the episodes, and I can even come over to season 1, choose season 1, 2, or 3. So how about we go to season 3 and, well, let's just choose a random episode here. So the Paradise Syndrome, I can hit the play and it'll start playing the episode for me. But essentially, you can watch lots of these TV shows. You can go on and choose the ones you want. You can see the latest movies at the top. There's just so much in there that you can see. And I can even see all the different things that I might be interested in. So lots and lots of different things there on Netflix. No, they don't. Now, that's what's called a rights issue. So what happens is with a lot of films and TV shows, SBS and the other channels can buy the rights to show them on terrestrial TV and to stream them on their streaming service for 14 days or so after it's been broadcast. But some films and some TV companies won't allow the rights to that. They might say, actually, you can show it on TV, but all the streaming rights are with Netflix or Stan or a different channel. And that does happen every now and again. So not everything that you see on SBS will always appear on SBS On Demand. Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking about using your remote control for your television to get round, all the stuff on the screen, how I just can't imagine it's going to work. It's going to have a home button and all that sort of stuff.
So usually with remote controls, you're just navigating around via the circle or a diamond shape through the middle, up, down, left and right.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and so you're navigating up, down, left and right and generally pressing the button in the middle to say accept and a button off the side. Yeah, it is not particularly user-friendly, which is why Apple went with the Apple TV and they made their own remote for it.
Oh, okay.
And now with that, you're rubbing your finger around the surface because it's a touchscreen remote, essentially. It's like a touchscreen. So that's why they like that. But, Chromecast, you're doing that off your smartphone or your tablet, so you've got touch interactivity that way. So for your older TVs that aren't smart TVs, then a box like the Apple TV or Chromecast gives you the internet and apps and being able to enjoy all of that sort of stuff without having to go out and buy a whole new TV.
Yeah.
However, that being said,
Yes.
TVs these days are fairly inexpensive, and you can get a good size smart TV for under $500 now. So that's one of those interesting things that you know, and a lot of the newer TVs have the smart functions built in, meaning that you don't need to go out and buy a Chromecast or an Apple TV. If you've got that little bit of extra money lying around, you could invest in a new smart TV, and when you buy it, check with the retailer that they've got Netflix, can get Netflix and Spotify and all those sorts of apps. Because if it can, and most of them can do, what you'll find then is that you might not need a streaming box. It would sort of be a bit silly to have a streaming box when you've got a smart TV that can do it. That's the beautiful thing. But if you've got an existing TV, or if you don't really have the budget, that's fine too, because, you know, we don't want you to, why buy a whole new smart TV when, you know, going the budget option might be the perfect route for you. So, any other questions before we move into catch-up TV?
You were talking about catch-up TV, Matt.
Yeah, Alan, yes.
It'll stay there, your program will stay there for 14 days and then go to Stan or Netflix.
Yeah, generally as a rule, yeah.
Yeah, so would you have to search everywhere to see where it's gone?
So you could do a Google search. Like if there's a show you particularly like, and it was on free-to-air television, and then it's moved to a streaming service. Now, if it moves to a streaming service, like if it's, say, ABC or something for the 14 days, generally what tends to happen is once they're off the ABC or SBS, they generally appear on Netflix or one of those others. What I do to get around that is I Google up the name of the show. Because often what happens is Google is smart enough, this is its little tentacles getting out across the internet, that it will work out that you're in Australia. It'll work out that you're in Australia, and what it will then do is give you directions to the local, because a lot of shows end up appearing on Stan or one of those other services as well. So yeah, definitely Google up the name of the show. You know, say you're looking for the new Avengers for some reason, you know, they decided to do a reboot of that, because it's probably going to happen. You know, they're bringing back all the old TV shows. So, you know, they might do a reboot of the new Avengers. The ABC gets the rights to show it. They show it on their station. They have it on ABC iView for a couple of weeks, and then it most likely heads off to Netflix and eventually will get released on Blu-ray or DVD. If there's shows I really like, I still tend to buy the Blu-rays or the DVDs. The reason for that is I like that show enough that I actually want to be able to watch it any time I like, because streaming services sometimes change their programming. Not all TV shows and films will stay on the streaming service that you're using. You might find that a show disappears after 6 months, and that could just be the rights deal that has been set up with the streaming service or the streaming company. So do be aware that every now and again you might see on online a little news article saying shows that are leaving Netflix this month. So there's a number of different services around here. So let's have a talk about those. So the competition in streaming services is really competitive. You've seen that there's Netflix and Stan, and CBS has now come into Australia with 10 All Access, because CBS in the US bought Channel 10 in Australia. That's CBS's own streaming service. You name a player in film and television and they've got a streaming service against them. There's new services starting up all the time. So in Australia with terrestrial TV, we've had to catch up because those stations essentially are under threat. And it was quite interesting trying to find something to watch on terrestrial TV over the last few weeks. So the catch-up services are the responses to Netflix and Stan and so on. And Stan's actually owned by Channel 9. I don't know if you're aware of that. So you can get those shows mostly for 14 days, computers and devices, smart TVs. You've got ABC iView, SBS On Demand, 10 Play, 7 Plus, 9 Now, Freeview. As you saw earlier on the Apple TV, I had those as well. Okay, here we go. So I can come down. First of all, we've looked at iView before. But again, if I tap iView, I can come into iView and I can scroll around the iView screen and see a whole lot of different things here, lots of different shows. The Cult of the Family, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, it's a great little documentary. I do recommend you watch it. But you can scroll around ABC iView here, search categories, channels, just by zooming around. And these are very similar across all of these different services. Let's come back. 9 Now. If I come into 9 Now, again, they're all set up very similar. So I can see my latest shows. I can see to 9 live televisions. But here's their shows. There we go, Tracy Grimshaw. I don't know if anyone's aware that she's hosting a current affair from home at the moment.
Oh.
So let's see if we actually there we go. There's a current affair, and I can go through and see the latest episodes of a current affair.
Are there ads when you're watching these?
Now that's a great question. As far as I'm aware, there shouldn't be, but you know what? I'm not. I'm a little on Channel 9 on that one. So there very well could be ads on that. These services are also available on your computer screen as well. What you can see, first of all, is here's SBS On Demand on the computer. And of course, with SBS On Demand, you have to either sign in or create an account. So you can watch things later. You can resume watching on your device, and SBS will recommend things for you. I can sign into SBS, and if I've actually got an account, so I might want to create one, or I could use my Google account to sign in. Well, here's SBS On Demand. Right now, loading up. There we go. Michael Mosley's Make Me Smart, Coronavirus, in lots of different languages. So in English, Dinka, French, Japanese, Macedonian. Wow, that's fantastic. So lots of different interesting things here. I could continue watching the Trixie and Katja show for some reason. That's interesting. Lots of films. Chappaquiddick, The Physician. Lots of great little films. The Social Distancing Toolkit. That's really fantastic. I love that. And lots of shows. And you can see that there's films, TV shows, you name it. They're all available here. So what have we got? Here's 10 Play. So this is 10's replay service, 10 Play. Essentially, lots of TV shows, Studio 10, SpongeBob, MacGyver, last night's TV shows, and so on. Paper Giants, Police Rescue, good old Police Rescue. That was a fantastic show. So they've got Police Rescue. Got to register, though, if I want to watch it. Hey, what does that mean? It wants my email address. That's the thing with some of these services. As much as they want you to watch, they're going to put a barrier in your way, and that barrier is that they want you to sign up to their network and sign up so you can see what they're seeing. And, of course, what is it? It's an option to market to you, essentially. Now, because it's all advertising, that's how they make their money. Here's Channel 9's 9 Now. So, oh God, Killer Women with Piers Morgan. That's an interesting one. Something a lot more interesting could be Lego Masters. So Lego Masters is pretty great for those people who love their Lego. You can see how these people build amazing different things out of Lego each week, which is pretty cool. You can see various clips. I can come down. Will it let me see anything? Well, what have I got to do? Again, I've got to sign up. Oh,
say you want to go and answer a phone or something, these streaming services are going. Yes. Can you stop them and go back to them, or do you lose them?
No. With any streaming service, you can pause what you're playing.
That's right.
Yeah. You can always pause it because, Mother Nature calls, and nothing waits for Mother Nature. So, yes, we can pause them, which is great. So the podcast app, lots of different podcasts. Okay, so lots of different radio shows you can listen to. You can see there I was on Dr. Sally Cobur's Saturday night shows. When I was on there, there's the podcast for the 11th. as well, which has been an interesting one. You can give it a tap.
Kim Jenkins. Some additional sound.
You can actually come into that podcast and see more information about the 11th as well by tapping details. And then I can come in and scroll through here and tap the more episodes link to see a few more. What happens there is it actually depends on how long it takes for them to put the show together. So essentially what happens is they make a recording of that show with Virginia, and it usually comes out in the afternoon. Here is the Listen app. Now you can see here that I've got an option for ABC Radio Melbourne.
Yes.
If I give that a tap there,
If you're a lover of the letter, this is the time to revive them.
there's the conversation now.
Yeah.
Now I can pause that if I like, and that's live on ABC Radio Melbourne. What I would usually do is I would come down to the bottom corner and tap Browse. That essentially gives me a search option, and if Virginia Triole is in here, I would type in Virginia. Let's see, and if I do a search, there we go, Trioli, Virginia Triole. So if there's anything with Virginia Triole here, I can do a search, and unfortunately not that I can see. So it's the most established streaming service, established in 2005, which is incredible when we think about it. Millions of viewers uploaded every day, millions of videos uploaded. I've got 2 YouTube channels, which is incredible. You can get it on practically anything that's got an internet connection these days. And even most of your TV and your smart TVs and Blu-ray players and DVD players have YouTube built in. It's owned by Google. Essentially, they're known as Alphabet now, so it's owned by them. And it's got, a whole generation of YouTube stars that grew up on YouTube, such as Troye Sivan, the pop star. He made his fame on YouTube initially as a teenager, and that launched him into a massive musical career. You can earn money via advertising with YouTube. You can have advertising on your channel, and then when you've got advertising on your channel, you can make some money off what you have. So let's show you YouTube now. So I'm going to flick into YouTube on Safari, and then we'll take some questions. Okay, so here is YouTube on my Safari browser. Now, so here we go. What we can see is all sorts of little videos that have been put up here. I can see recommended, breaking news. We can see lots of different TV shows, lots of different fun things. But I can come up and search. So I might just search for something interesting, and I will search for Mr. Bean. Here we go. Here comes Mr. Bean. Aha! So there's lots of little episodes of Mr. Bean here that you could watch, which is pretty amazing. There are all sorts of funny clips of Mr. Bean. Oh, dearie me, the Thanksgiving episode. So, for example, you could just click on it. It opens up the little video. There we go. And we can now see a bit of Mr. Bean and his little mini miner. So, if I wanted to search for Mr. Bean, I could search for Mr. Bean. If I wanted to search for Burt Bacharach, well, I could find some Burt Bacharach in here as well. If you have your own YouTube channel, you can see your details up in the top corner, and I can go to my own personal YouTube channels and then have a look at the videos that I've got up there as well, and a whole lot of different things there too. So there's so much you can do with YouTube.
Can you see movies on YouTube?
Now, it depends on the rights holders. Yes, you can stream movies on YouTube, but they actually ask you to pay for them. Right. So usually movies are around $2.99 on YouTube. There's lots of documentaries that are free. There's so many different tutorials on things as well. I've taught myself how to sew just by using YouTube, and actually how to sew a quilt. you know, which was fantastic. T-shirt quilt. So I wanted to know how to make a T-shirt quilt. And I was able to come on here to YouTube and actually look up how to make a T-shirt quilt. I'll just show you that. So you can see here on YouTube, there's a whole lot of videos. I've just searched how to sew a T-shirt quilt. And there's lots of different videos here on how to make a quilt from T-shirts. So, you know, there's tutorials on practically anything. How to fix a radiator. There we go. How to fix a radiator leak. So there we go. Best radiator stop leaks. Bang. How to successfully repair a radiator. I mean, all sorts of little interesting things like that. That's pretty amazing. So there's so much there.
Matt, I fixed a blocked dishwasher by watching it.
That's fantastic. So you fixed a blocked dishwasher just
I didn't have to pay for the plumber.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. So that is one of those ones that, you know, there's so much you can pick up. So wow, everyone, we've looked at all the big players. We've looked at podcasts. We've looked at Netflix. We've looked at Spotify. We've looked at Apple TV. We've looked at Chromecast. We've covered so much, and yet there's more. We haven't even gone into things like podcasting, all the amazing audio plays that are now around out there, audio books, which is another huge one as well. So I want to do that as a separate podcast. We'll bring you a podcast all for your ears. We'll bring you a workshop just all for your ears on podcasting, radio and audio plays, all that sort of stuff. That's all coming up. So definitely it's all possible. I hope you've had a really good time today and enjoyed today's workshop. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Matt.